Okay, real talk. Imagine you retire on January 1st. Balloons, champagne, maybe a little dance that your knees immediately regret. You've got $800,000 saved. You are done. You made it. Life is beautiful. And then the stock market drops 35% in the first year of your retirement. Suddenly, you're watching your nest egg shrink while you're simultaneously trying to live off it. You're selling shares at a loss just to pay your electric bill, and the recovery? Sure, it comes, but by then, you've sold so much at the bottom that you barely benefit from the bounce back. That, my friends, is called sequence of returns risk, and it has absolutely wrecked more retirements than bad decisions combined. But today, we're going to completely neutralize it. I'm going to show you the three-bucket strategy, a simple, powerful framework that keeps your retirement intact no matter what the market does. No panic, no selling low, no eating cat food because your portfolio had a bad year. Let's get into it. Research consistently shows a majority of retirees don't have a formal withdrawal strategy. They spent 30 years obsessing over saving the money, but when retirement starts, the plan often becomes, I'll just take some out when I need it, and they hope for the best. That's not a plan. That's a wish. And a wish is great for birthday candles. Not so great when it's your life savings on the line. The old school advice was simple. Put 60% in stocks, 40% in bonds, and withdraw 4% a year. And look, the 4% rule is not bad. It's based on real research, but it was designed for a 30-year retirement starting in specific market conditions. And it doesn't account for the biggest landmine in retirement planning, which is that you might have the absolute worst timing in human history and retire right before a market crash. You know what fixes that? Structure, intentionality, and a strategy that doesn't require you to predict the future. Enter the three-bucket strategy. What is the three-bucket strategy? The three-bucket strategy is a retirement income framework built around one core idea. Not all of your money needs to do the same job at the same time. Here's how to think about it. Imagine your retirement savings as water. You need that water to flow to you consistently every month, every year, no matter what's happening with the weather outside. Some years it rains, some years it's a drought. The buckets let you control the flow so you never run dry when it matters most. Bucket 1 is your right now money. It's there immediately, always accessible, never invested in anything risky. Bucket 2 is your soon money. It's not needed today, but you'll need it in the next few years. It earns a little, but safety is still priority. Bucket 3 is your long-term growth money. This is invested for growth, stocks, ETFs, real estate investment trusts, and it has the time to ride out market volatility. Let me break each one down properly because the details are where this strategy gets really powerful. Bucket 1. Bucket 1 is your safety blanket. This is cold, hard, liquid cash, and it is never, ever put at risk. We're talking checking accounts, high-yield savings accounts, money market accounts, maybe short-term CDs or treasury bills. The kind of stuff that isn't going to double overnight, but it's also never going to drop 40% because some hedge fund in New York sneezed on a Tuesday. The question everyone always asks is how much should be in Bucket 1? The rule of thumb, and this is widely used by certified financial planners, is 1 to 2 years of living expenses. So if your monthly expenses in retirement are $5,000, you want somewhere between $60,000 and $120,000 sitting in Bucket 1. Why 1 to 2 years? Because that's your buffer. Even if the market tanks the moment you retire, which, given our luck, it absolutely might, you are not forced to sell a single investment to pay your grocery bill. You have 12 to 24 months of runway where the market can do absolutely whatever it wants, and you are completely unbothered. You sip your coffee, you watch the news, you think, that's unfortunate for those folks, and you go back to your crossword puzzle because your bills are paid. That psychological peace of mind is worth more than people realize because panic is expensive. People who panic sell at the bottom every single cycle. This helps you not be that person.
Bucket 2. All right, this is where things get interesting. Bucket 2 covers years 3 through 10 of your retirement. It's the middle ground between I need it now and I don't need it for decades. And because of that, you've got a little more flexibility with how you invest it. This bucket typically holds bonds and bond funds, especially shorter to intermediate duration, dividend-paying stocks, think blue chip, stable, companies that have paid dividends through recessions, certificates of deposit, especially if you ladder them so they mature at different times, fixed annuities, depending on your situation, treasury inflation-protected securities, TIPS, because inflation is sneaky and loves to ruin retirement plans. The goal here isn't to crush it on returns, it's to preserve value while generating some income. Think of it as the steady, dependable middle child of your financial family. Not flashy, not boring, just reliable. The size of bucket 2 varies by person, but a general guideline is 3 to 7 years of living expenses, depending on how aggressively your bucket 3 is invested and how comfortable you are with market volatility. Here's the really clever part of how bucket 2 works with the rest of the system. When bucket 1 starts running low, say around the 1-year mark, you refill it from bucket 2. You take some of those bonds, CDs, or dividend income and slide it over. Simple, clean, and zero market timing required. You're not selling stocks at a loss, you're just moving money between buckets like a rational, prepared adult. Bucket 3. Okay, now we're talking. Bucket 3 is where the magic happens. This is your long-term growth engine. This bucket is invested for maximum growth because it doesn't need to be touched for at least 8 to 10 years, potentially longer. So it can absolutely absorb the market's worst tantrums without it affecting your daily life. We're talking broad market index funds, total US market, S&P 500, etc. International stock funds for diversification, REITs, real estate investment trusts for inflation protection and income, growth ETFs, small cap and mid cap exposure for higher long-term growth potential. Bucket 3 is where you let time do the heavy lifting. Compound growth is arguably the most powerful force in personal finance. Einstein allegedly called it the eighth wonder of the world, though he probably had other things on his mind. And bucket 3 is where you harness it. Here's the key insight. Because you have buckets 1 and 2 covering you for years, maybe even a decade, bucket 3 never has to be touched at a bad time. The market can drop 40% and you don't care. You don't need that money, so you leave it alone and it recovers and it grows, and eventually you start drawing it down into bucket 2 to replenish the system. This is how you get the benefits of long-term stock market investing while protecting yourself from the timing risk that has historically wrecked so many retirements. Here's where the whole machine clicks together, and honestly, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Think of it as a waterfall. Bucket 3, your long-term growth bucket, is at the top. When it's had good years and grown nicely, you skim some of those gains and refill bucket 2. You're not depleting it, you're just taking what it naturally produced above and beyond what you need. Bucket 2 is in the middle. It generates income through dividends, interest, and bond coupons. That income flows down to replenish bucket 1 on a regular cadence, monthly, quarterly, whatever makes sense for your situation. Bucket 1 is at the bottom. It catches all that flow and provides your day-to-day spending money. When markets are up, you refill aggressively. When markets are down, you wait. You have the runway to wait. That's the whole point. A common question at this stage is, what if the market is down for a really long time? What if bucket 3 isn't recovering fast enough to refill bucket 2? Great question. That's why you size these buckets correctly in the first place. 1 to 2 years in bucket 1. 3 to 7 in bucket 2. If you've got 5 or more years in bucket 2, you have a lot of time for bucket 3 to recover before you ever need to touch it. Historical data on the US stock market shows that rolling 10-year periods have never once finished in the negative. So if you have a 10-year buffer between you and your growth investments, you are in a very, very strong position.
Let's make this concrete with some numbers, because talking about buckets in the abstract is one thing, but seeing it laid out makes it real. Let's say you're retiring at 65 with $900,000 saved. Your monthly expenses are $5,000, which is $60,000 a year. Bucket 1, 1.5 years of expenses, equals $90,000, sits in a high-yield savings account and/or money market, currently yielding around 4 to 5% in the current environment, which means it's actually keeping pace with inflation while you use it. Bucket 2, 5 years of expenses, equals $300,000. Invested in a mix of short to intermediate bond funds, dividend stocks, and laddered CDs. Target return of roughly 4 to 6% annually. This generates income that continuously trickles down to replenish bucket 1. Bucket 3, the remaining $510,000, invested in a diversified equity portfolio, index funds, international exposure, maybe some REITs. Target long-term return of 7 to 10% annually. Hands off, don't touch it, let it breathe. Now, what if the market tanks in year one of your retirement? You watch $510,000 drop to maybe $330,000. That sounds terrifying, right? Except you genuinely don't care much, not because you're reckless, but because you're protected on multiple fronts. Buckets 1 and 2 are already covering years of spending. Meanwhile, Bucket 3 is diversified across asset classes that don't always move together. When stocks struggle, bonds often hold steady. When U.S. markets slow down, international markets may perform differently. The point of diversification isn't perfection, it's protection. No single market event is likely to destroy your entire portfolio at once. And by the time you actually need Bucket 3, history shows markets have usually had plenty of time to recover. Meanwhile, the person with no bucket strategy, they're selling shares at the bottom to pay rent. They're locking in permanent losses. Their retirement is permanently impaired. The difference between those two outcomes is not investment selection, it's structure. All right, let's talk about the ways people mess this up, because they absolutely do. Mistake number 1, making Bucket 1 too big. I know it feels safe, but if you've got 5 years of expenses sitting in cash, congratulations, inflation is slowly eating your lunch every single day. Bucket 1 is for security, not storage. Keep it lean, 1 to 2 years, that's it. Mistake number 2, making Bucket 3 too conservative. The whole point of Bucket 3 is growth. If you stuff it full of bonds because you don't like seeing red numbers, you've defeated the purpose. The reason you have Buckets 1 and 2 is so that Bucket 3 can be aggressive. Trust the system. Mistake number 3, not rebalancing. The buckets don't maintain themselves. You need to review them at least once a year, ideally with a financial planner, and make sure the levels make sense given your age, your spending, and what the market has done. This isn't set it and forget it. It's set it and check it. Mistake number 4, forgetting about Social Security and other income. If you're getting $2,000 a month from Social Security and your expenses are $5,000, you only need to fund $3,000 a month from your buckets. That changes your math significantly. Always build your strategy around your net income gap, not your total expenses. Mistake number 5, panicking anyway. Yeah, I know. You watched this video, you set up the buckets, and then the market dropped 30% and you started sweating. Here's your reminder. You don't need that money. That's why you set this up. Trust the structure. Breathe. Go touch some grass. The buckets have got you. Quick note on who this strategy is designed for. The 3-bucket strategy works best for people who are within 5 to 10 years of retirement and want to start structuring their assets thoughtfully. Already retired and currently just winging it with their drawdowns, in which case please get a plan. Anyone who has experienced anxiety watching market drops because they're mentally already spending that money. If you're in your 20s or 30s and still in aggressive wealth accumulation mode, you don't need this yet, but it's good to understand now because you'll need it eventually, and preparation beats panic every time. All right, let's bring it home. The 3-bucket strategy is not complicated. It's not fancy. It does not require a finance degree or a Bloomberg terminal. What it requires is intention. Sitting down, knowing your numbers, and putting your money into a structure that works for you instead of against you. Bucket 1, 1 to 2 years of living expenses in safe, liquid accounts. Your don't panic money. Bucket 2, 3 to 7 years in moderate income-generating investments. Your bridge the gap money. Bucket 3, the rest invested for long-term growth, your let-it-ride money. Together, they create a system that funds your life, weathers market storms, and gives your investments the time they need to do what they're supposed to do, grow. If you found value in this video, please hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need this stuff. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we've got a full library of retirement planning, investing basics, and wealth-building content that I think you're going to love. And drop a comment below. I want to know, are you already using something like the bucket strategy, or are you just now hearing about this? Let's talk about it. Take care of your money, and it'll take care of you. Thank you for watching.